we are. My God. Let's wait for a couple more people to come on. And then we'll start this.
Y'all come on in. Come on in. The doors
Say
are open.
Hi. If you're catching us, if it's like all working, if it's not, if we're glitching, just like tell us so that like we won't be stuck in it like
Please.
that would not be.
Please, that would be awful.
That would be. Anyhow, today's topic is connecting at the core, building brands that stick. Where Daniel Berneman and I are going to take a look at what it takes to get stuck in your target audience's mind, and both from a business and personal perspective, because two badasses in both worlds, freaking love it. Yes. And we will dive into how nostalgia can be used to build recall, building and implementing values that stick, and tying them together with building a memorable brand personality. Guys, drop your questions in the comments and we will try to get to it as we go. And my gosh, I've loved the build up for this live, Daniel. It's been exciting and different, with the video pre-recorded. Like,
do you expect anything else from us though? I mean, come on.
Seriously, like it has to be that, right? Like it can't just be like the regular, hey, come and join us. You will get ABC in value.
No, we're talking bonsais. We're talking PlayStations. It's gonna be different. Hey, remarkably unique. That's the word.
Maybe we should get like remarkable, like the remarkable pads.
Listen, with the rebrand that I dropped today, we're getting remarkable merch. Remarkable merch is coming.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. So before the show, Daniel and I chose 3 items from our 90s childhoods to go back on and think of what persona it would have if it were a human brand, to start this off on a fun note. You ready, Daniel?
Let's do it. Let's go. You first?
Let's have a look. Oh, let's see. Let's say hi. Hi, Christian.
Kristen, Jill, Maddie, what's up, fam?
Hell yeah, and Jill. Okay, welcome. PlayStation. Okay, we did not include the PlayStation. Maybe we should add the PlayStation.
Well, we did the PlayStation. I mean, do we need to revisit the PlayStation? Because okay, we'll do a 30-second top 3 games PlayStation. You said Crash Bandicoot was top 1 for you. I said Crash Team Racing for me.
Ooh.
You got a couple more?
Was Mario, like Super Mario, was on PlayStation?
No, that was N64. That was N64.
I did play Simpsons on it.
Okay. That's good.
Like, I did not play enough games on it.
Okay, listen, I got Spyro. Grand Theft Auto. Okay, Spyro. There's Gran Turismo. That was a fun. Twisted Metal. Did anyone play Twisted Metal out there? That one was a lot of fun. And then the sports games that were just like terrible graphics. NBA Live. All that. Crash Bandicoot 2. Maddie, yes.
Yo, yes. Love it.
Hey, Maddie, so listen, I just got the about a year ago, got the remakes of those for PS5, and my son and I played through Crash Bandicoot and beat it 100%. Secret levels, all gems, all across, all the time trials, everything, 100%.
We know who we need on the team for this then. We know exactly. I'm just like, if I ever get that game, I'm like, look, Daniel, I need your help here. Like, we'll just set aside a good 12 hours, 8 hours.
Oh, to beat that game? Yeah, it was a solid 12, maybe more. I mean, it took a long time.
All right. So, first persona is Tamagotchi. Daniel, do you want to take it first?
Oh, I'll take it first. Listen, the Tamagotchi is that whiny little brat that just wants what it wants, and then when it doesn't get it, it pitches a fit. Because that Tamagotchi ain't sticking around for nobody. It don't want to listen to you. that thing is going to go bye-bye immediately. It was the hardest thing to keep those things alive. And man, when I tell you, if it were the brand voice, it would not be a brand I'd want to work for or with because it's out as soon as you do what it doesn't want you to do.
It's like RIP. Ooh, that's actually very close to mine.
Okay.
I picked a jester, so it was playful.
Okay.
But like it's a jester and playing like playful in terms of teasing you until like that the creature won't die until suddenly womp 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 it's dead again.
Okay.
For like the millionth time.
Yes, the million, because that thing didn't never stay alive.
I mean, I kept the paper. So like I could always just like put the paper in when I'm like tired of it.
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, okay, screw this. And then like that also meant that it just lasted forever. And I'm kind of sad that it's gone. So sad.
That's
so
fair.
Sad.
That's fair.
All
okay,
right.
next up, you got a treat for us?
I'm gonna try this out. Let's do this. Let's
give it a shot. See if this jogs some memories. Oh man. I'm just waiting on my mom to yell, "Who's trying to get on the internet?" Get off, I'm trying to make a call.
Kristen, yes. You've got mail. I think I've watched too much of what movie was that they say you've got mail on it?
You've got mail?
Yeah. Wait, was that a real thing? Like I just
that
saw
was a movie. Tom
movie.
Hanks, Meg Ryan. You've Got Mail was a movie.
Oh shit, no. I think it was from Eurotrip, I think.
Well, now there's a whole different genre.
I hated this so much. And then someone picks up the landline, you're done.
Yes. 1000% yes, Kristen.
We all have trauma. We just like
you all have Sleepless in Seattle. Listen, I'm still trying to figure out the difference between Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. But that's a whole different discussion for a whole different day.
So my take on the AOL like dial-up is it's a grumpy old man outlaw.
Okay. Outlaw, why?
So he doesn't care at all about your sanity. Like the twitch that you're about to develop, but he is so good at what he does that even if you play the sound for a second, how many years later this is, people will always remember it.
Ooh, that's a great take. That is a great take. Okay. So mine was, it's the person who thinks they are way cooler than they are. They make you wait on them. And then when they get there, they don't deliver on the promise. They have a whole build up. They have a whole build up. Ding, ding, ding. There's a whole wait, a whole build up, and then it's just slow and mediocre at best.
All the memories. It's just all coming up.
All of it.
Okay. And the last one that we have is yo-yos.
Yo-yos.
Yo-yos. Do you guys remember those? I didn't. I should have gotten a little I don't know, video or something of yo-yos or somebody doing them because I was Googling them and I saw like a bigger, wider one, but like I know those small ones that you just do from your hand.
Listen.
You know what I'm talking about?
Listen, the Omega yo-yos back then were the joints. The X-Brain, when you throw that thing down and it'd go to sleep and then come back up when it was about to stop spinning, that was the one.
Dude. And yeah, okay.
Listen, I could rock the cradle. Promise you. The brain twister was the one that always got me. but I could rock the cradle easy.
Did
It
you
was
bring
smooth.
a yo-yo to like show us how
I did
this
not.
brain?
I don't have a yo-yo anymore. My yo-yo is gone.
Me too.
Sad day. I know. It went the way of the Tamagotchi.
I had the original, like the very first one that glowed in the dark and everything. I was like,
Okay. Listen, you're probably talking about Duncan. The Duncan yo-yos were fine for beginners. You want to do some tricks, you need to get the Omega. You need to get the Omega. They didn't glow in the dark. They were for business.
all right.
They were the original standing on business.
Exactly. And Fran has got a good point. We didn't think that the internet was slow back then. And
that is true.
I mean, hell, like I still remember the SD cards where you're like, oh, this is like a lot of memory. And then like now you're like, oh, 128 megabytes. I found one of those. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with that?
I can't. Yeah, I can't put anything on that. I can put a well compressed web image on it. One.
Single one. Here you go. Here's my present to you. So,
all right, yo-yo brain personality.
Yo-yos?
You want me to take you up?
You go first.
All right, I'll take it. It's the fun friend that you can never count on. They're back and forth, but they are a great time. If I'm putting the personality to that yo-yo, that's the one. It's the brand that you can't count on, but man, you love them.
Oh God, I went like in a completely different way with that.
Okay. Where'd you go?
Lover combination with a magician.
Wow. Okay. Talk me through that.
They like to stay close. They always come back to you, right?
Okay.
But like magical because of all the combinations that you can like use. As long as you're like, okay, how can I try this? Like, there's so many different possibilities around it.
Okay. I'll rock with that. All right. Yeah. Anyone on the chat, I want to see what are y'all's thoughts? Any of these, the personalities, any ones that you're looking at and saying, oh yeah, that I got a good one for that. Or another 90s thing that you want us to riff on just for a moment.
Hell yeah. And well, in the meantime, so since we're on nostalgia, Daniel, I know that you just dropped a badass as heck rebrand today. And look, I have a big issue in terms of like a lot of rebrands because there is not like, usually there's not much depth. It's just like, hey, we've done like a color theme and like logo. Dude, I see yours. Like,
I appreciate that.
Deep. Tell us more about it.
Thank you. So it was literally rooted in nostalgia. I'm talking top to bottom nostalgia. So I put on a page everything from my childhood that brought me joy. I'm talking TV shows, cereal boxes, the toys you got in cereal, basketball cards, clothes, all of it. And I looked at the like 1980s basketball cards and I was like, man, those have some awesome aesthetics. And so I started pulling colors and fonts and textures and things that matched there and started really developing that brand. And so I'm actually going to do content on it for the next week. But I'm going to give people a deep dive into how I came up with it because I think having that understanding of how nostalgia plays into the brand is so helpful. But yeah, that's the one. And then Kristen, the koosh balls, those were on the list. Those were on the board. Koosh balls were. Listen, my question is, did you have the koosh ball basketball hoop? That thing was fire. Listen, do you know what? So do you know what a koosh ball is?
Oh, where there's these little
like rubber furry ball things. It's like it was like a small rubber ball in the middle, but they had like 2-inch rubber band all sticking out from it. It looked like a sea urchin almost.
Nope. No idea. I don't know if they were in Australia or not.
I mean, so much fun. Also, when you get to throw them at each other, they hurt when you hit. So, yeah, glow in the dark. Okay, Kristen, the glow in the dark. I ain't mad at that.
Solid.
I ain't mad at that.
Yeah,
I like it.
Freaking solid. So, okay, going back into nostalgia and making it work. you've got it very finesse. I really like the approach in terms of, hey, look, you've picked one theme, right? Like, I know a lot of the brands, they go like, okay, let's pick a whole era, and then they start picking out like different things. You've got like one specific vibe, and that's what sticks, right?
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of it stems from who you are. I think that you look at the things that resonate with you, and you're going to understand the things that resonate with those who you attract. And so I think sticking with one thing is helpful, it's purposeful, but I think weaving in other pieces isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it has to align. I think when you're trying to like create an amalgamation of these things, that's where people get in trouble. But when you really understand the thing that resonates with you, and often it is singular in nature, like really sitting down and rooting everything in that is super helpful. And I think that's where the connection piece comes in, because you attract who you are in a lot of different ways, but through that understanding, the nostalgia piece plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, Madeline, I missed those balls. And Fran, look, branding is actually supposed to be fun. Like, I don't know, like,
It's pretty fun.
who you've been like being around. Branding is fun. Like, you work with like Daniel or I, like, you will enjoy yourself. Like, guaranteed, guaranteed.
Guaranteed. I promise you that.
And that's the thing. So, like, okay, building up what you were just saying there, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's really, having something that connects, right? Like, your audience. And like, I think there's a big miss in that section. It's like, oh, like, hey, let's develop this brand, etc. Like, what are the needs? But okay, who exactly is your audience? Like, what are their, like, you know things that, say, for example, like the dial-up sound,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure when people started posting it not long ago, like on Instagram, TikTok, and everything, like, people were just triggered. But like, it's not a nice sound, but it triggers something, like an emotion in each of us, or a memory even, right?
Yeah.
Of like when we were kids and doing like stupid things, or like, if, say, for example, if somebody posts up an image of this crucible, just the image by itself, and then maybe says like, okay, anyone remember this?
Oh,
Directly
the
to the
comments are
target
going
audience.
wild. The comments are going wild. Guaranteed.
Exactly. And ooh, Saved by the Bell. That, yes,
Listen,
well, it got picked up.
listen, that one. Yeah. Yeah. That one hits. It hits.
I mean, was that a part of, like, was that on your sheet for your brand, Saved by the Bell?
Saved by the Bell was not. It probably could have been. Fresh Prince was, though. Fresh Prince of Bel Air. That was up there. So
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
sure, like right in the same era. But I watched Saved by the Bell just as much. But I always loved like the street art of Fresh Prince. That's why I went that direction.
Exactly. And I think another way in terms of making nostalgia stick is fusing it with current things.
Yep.
So same thing as like when we mix two different ideas together, right? Like fusing, say, for example, Fresh Prince, like with this current like idea, where we're talking about like, okay, there's nostalgia, but we're talking about like what that current issue is, you know.
Yeah, I think cameos in TV shows and movies are the perfect example of what you're talking about. Because every time there's a cameo where there's a remake or something and the old character comes back in, they used to play it. One of the best things. So on the topic of Fresh Prince, I'm watching the new Bel Air on Peacock. It's much more serious, much more of a drama, which I wasn't sure about at first, but it's really, really good. But they just in the third season brought the guy back who played Jeffrey in this role where he's just like this gangster, which is really interesting to see. but it's like, oh, that's freaking Jeffrey, and he was to be so nice, and but there is this immediate connection between my childhood and what I'm currently engaging with. And I think that's a perfect example because people will do that all the time. I think it was maybe Pepsi that redid the Ray Charles type commercial several years back. You look at Coke with the polar bears, bringing those back every once in a while, or the big Santa that you haven't seen those for years, and they come back. I think you'll see a lot of that nostalgic cycling from these big brands because they hit so hard on certain things early on that they bring it back. Even one great, you're talking about rebrands, Burger King. Go back and look at their evolution as a brand, and their their most recent iteration looks a lot like their brand from 30 years ago, not from everything that was in between.
Yes. I mean, like, not even with like just the big brands, right? Like, I see that a lot in the last, say, 2 years. Over the last 2 years, brands have been like bringing on various kinds of like nostalgia into their brands, like highlighting one, like things that are similarly aligned to what they're doing. I mean, hell, like, we're going from that very like clean modern vibe, like, because everybody is doing it, to something that's like, you know, has a bit of meat to it. Like, same as how Pepsi, they went from like their older, clean, like simplistic logo, right, to something like bigger, bolder, chunkier, and to bring that out. And oh my God, Matt, like, I love that about your
So
daughter.
So freaking good, man.
Like, she'll probably be an adult and she'll be like, Dad, can you I
Listen,
need a bedtime.
I'm stealing that. I will be doing that tonight.
Oh my God, you need to tell
my
us
kid's
how
about
that
to get
goes.
that. My kid's about to get that as a nighttime bedtime story tonight.
Yes. Oh God, we need updates.
And no, I didn't see the VMAs, Jill. How was it nostalgic?
Same.
I'd love to hear about that.
And okay, so jumping from like nostalgia, we've got also these deep values that, you know, you see in these brands that, you know, they really stick. And, you know, it is quite undervalued in a lot of companies these days, where it's like, oh, we put it into like, you know, we tick it off at the beginning. It's like, hey, we need to get the values, mission, why, and it's like put into a book, or it's saved onto like the computer and thrown somewhere, like, to get dusty and nostalgic. But without anyone knowing it.
Exactly. We don't actually live by these. These are just words that we like. Like, they sounded really, really nice.
And look, to me, like, even the ones, like, a lot of people who are talking about them now, a lot of like the values that are being brought up and are like, you know, hey, business, like, brand strategists, like, here's a list, or you can easily Google and go on AI and like, give me a list of values that I can choose from, right? But to me, I feel like that's vanilla.
Oh, so vanilla. Yeah. Okay, so here's my thing. This is why I think values and nostalgia are deeply rooted in each other and connected to each other. Because values are not created, they are mined. I'm going to say it again. Values are not created, they are excavated. That's maybe a better way to say it. We'll do a little bit of alliteration. They are not created, they are excavated. All right? Because values have to come from who you are. If you are creating values, you will be manufacturing energy to meet those values. And when you are manufacturing energy, that is time and wasted effort that is spent doing something that is not your core competency and not what you are setting out to accomplish.
Exactly. Right. Like, so say, for example, if you have a team on board, right? Ask your team, like, without saying like values in specific, be like, okay, you know, what do we represent? What do we like fire up for? Right? See what they say. Does it line up?
How do we naturally do
line up
things?
what you think?
Yeah. How do we naturally do things? What are some of the things that people look at us and say, oh, wow, you do that well. You do things naturally this way that you don't even realize. A lot of our values are subconscious because it's just the way we are built, the way we move, and we don't even recognize we're moving in that way.
Exactly. And, I'd go even further than that. Like, it's like, hey, what are the things? So, say, for example, you're in a conversation with friends and, with society, right? Like, it's a lot of the topics, we'll just let it go if we don't agree with. What
Yep.
is that one thing that you're not going to let go of? You're going to
Yeah.
be like, no, wait, no. This is
Hold
how I
on.
believe on this.
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what you're like. He's like, hold on. I'm gonna sit on this one. Y'all can keep talking. I'm sitting on this one. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a great frame. That is a great frame to look through. That is honestly one of the best ways to figure out what your values are.
Right. And don't, to me, it's like, don't use a list. Keep it to like, what are the words that come to you to describe that? And like,
Yeah.
hone that down. Okay.
Yep.
What does this really mean beyond like fluff words, right?
Yes.
Value judgment words. So have those things actually mean something. So that means like no using impact or results or things that
Yeah.
like, you know, it's subjective,
No.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I work with personal brands. So getting to the core values of who somebody is relatively easy because we can just start digging. As
Mhm.
a business, small business, even medium-sized businesses, do you find, and this is my theory, is that the values are always going to come from the top, that the values of the business will be shared, are the ones that are shared by the leader. Do you find that to be true, or do you find that there are certain values that are carried from the bottom up that will also be fused into this set?
I say that depends on how the team was originally structured, right?
Mm,
So, like, if
mm,
the team, say for example, if the business started off like as a very tiny, like close knit team, then those values might be something like a little bit more shared, right? Like
okay.
they came
Yeah.
together for a specific reason or like things that they all really resonate on. They're like,
Yeah.
this needs to change, or we're tired of this, or something like that. And it's understanding that. Otherwise, if it was a business that started off with like a founder or co-founders, right? It
Mhm.
is very much based on them. And that leads to our next part, which is like implementing
Yeah.
values, right? So from a business sense, right? It needs to go beyond just creating them to every single part of the business. So, your HR team, when you're doing your hiring, what does that hiring process look like? Are those values being ticked off on the people that you're hiring? It doesn't have to be like precisely exactly, but that essence needs to be there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The sales
Yeah, are
team.
they being considered? Are they even being considered? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Sales team, are they on the same page? Like when they go into those meetings, are they bringing those same values, right?
Mm,
Like that same kind of passion and direction. And, yes, that's why you do your values first because it rubs off on your voice, it rubs off on your messaging. And I know
yeah.
I can see your brain going, oh my God, I have so much to share for the personal
No,
brand. Go, go, go.
no, I really don't. I'm literally taking it in. Like these are all such great points. I'm processing everything that you're saying because you're so spot on. It's so freaking
It's
good.
insane. Yeah,
I
like
really
and
think that the implementation of values um, really is a core thing because when I look at your mission, especially from the personal brand standpoint, if I'm looking at your mission, your values, purpose, all those kinds of things, I want to see, can you wake up every morning and say what I'm doing aligns with that? That's the main thing that I'm looking at is, do I move in that way every day? Or am I moving in ways contrary to that? This is personal brand. And when I'm working with businesses, I ask these same questions of, like, you say that you think big and start small. When was the last time you started small? That's not a value of yours anymore. It might have been when you started off. It's just not a value. And that's cool. But now we're talking contrarian thought points. So how are you moving? Are you actually thinking and moving in this vein? And is it aligning with everything else? And so when I look at implementation of values, I look at it from a daily standpoint. I think a lot of people look at it from initiative. I personally look at it from a daily standpoint. Am I daily living in these things?
Yes, exactly. And another thing is, you're going to know if your values aren't right, if you haven't dug through them sufficiently,
Yeah.
when you're putting them into action in your team, in your like daily, because it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to flow. So same thing as Brian was saying, like with brand strategy. Like the thing is, when you do this right, it should be like water. It should just
Great analogy.
just flow.
Great analogy.
Like, Miyagiing things up.
I love
Wait,
it.
no.
Go ahead.
Not Miyagi. That's the other karate guy.
Listen, we get into Karate Kid. We're going down that road. We'll be down there for a while.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. You're good. You're good. I had a thought and I lost it because I'm old and this happens now. So, so go on.
That makes me old too, because I do that all the time.
Oh, it's terrible. It is terrible.
Yes,
oh no, I got it now. I got it. Your values. You said you will know when your values are wrong and it won't feel right. I will tell you right now, everyone else is going to know when your values are wrong too. Everyone else is going to know it. They're going to feel it and they're going to see through it. And when people talk about being authentic, that is one of the things that is not talked about enough, because people say, be authentic, talk in this way, be authentic, relate in this way. I'm like, hey, be authentic. You have to live in this way. If you're not living in that, people are going to sniff it out.
Exactly. If it's just words, right?
Yep.
Like the same thing for content.
Yeah.
A lot of the content that works, that is effective, and this is like going beyond like any kind of like, the algorithm, whatever. You know that it works because like it lights that certain kind of je ne sais quoi. Like you've written it in like either 2-minute, like, and most people say, right, like, oh, this post that took me 2 minutes to write, because you were like in the zone, you were in like in that flow, right?
Yes.
You were honed in with your values, and that was what's coming out on your content, your messaging, your
like
voice.
Friend said, be water, my friend.
Yes.
That's exactly it.
It's far too zen for us. Like we're just, you're like bouncing over the wall.
I operate far too high frequency to be water. We're waterfalls. We're water hoses. I don't know. We are not flowing water.
Somebody commented on the post from earlier this week. They're like, I think it was Elijah, right? Remember when we drank from the water hoses in the backyard? I'm like, God,
listen, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing, because people don't know what iron in water tastes like unless you've been drinking out of a hose from the faucet outside.
I mean, I'm not sure that I remember this. Maybe like in Australia it was different. Maybe we had other chemicals.
Maybe y'all had just really good water. Well, but that's the thing. You coming from well water, I mean, it's coming straight out the ground, and you got the old hose pipe. I mean, you catching some kind of probably lead poisoning coming through that thing. I promise.
We're fine.
I mean, that's probably why I'm always up here.
You know what? I think there's something like, we're going to take a slight tangent for a second, but this needs to be said.
Okay.
Gen Z are always saying, "Oh, we look so much older," and like you millennials, you look so young.
That's why.
It was the water.
Why. It was in the water, literally in the water. That's not a saying. That's a real thing.
whatever we were drinking from those backyard taps.
Listen, the minerals were rich.
Exactly. And another thing is, jumping back to the values.
Yeah, let's get serious for a moment. Go ahead.
Serious? Us? What?
I know. Our best attempt at it. My apologies.
Is integrating those values into your business pillars, right? Like making sure that it is like, okay, these are the things that we stand by. These are the things that we like. Say, for example, we have the training, the onboarding, or we have like some presentations, etc. It's not exactly like you're pointing out, like, okay, my value is like
simplicity.
Like, it's not saying that. It's like, okay, what does that look like in how I operate, and talking about that more. So because like a lot of people like, oh, hey, like I just have to mention, like, say for example, so many people are like, my value is authenticity. I'm like, okay, we're not going into that because I'm gonna lose my shit. but it's mention, like, seeing how that looks like. What does authenticity look like when you're actually running business, when you're having those meetings with customers or clients, and even when you're like creating content, when your team is out there shaking things up and doing what they need to do. Like, what do you think from a personal side?
Oh man, from the personal side, I look at, like, I will give examples. If you're saying that one of your values is authenticity, then I better see vulnerability, because the root of authenticity is vulnerability. If you're telling me that your value is care, I had better see you inordinately take care of people and meet them where they're at more than others. And so from the personal standpoint, I think it's the way you move and the things that you do in that space. So exactly what you were saying. But one of my values is generosity. I will try to give as much as I can before asking for anything, just because I believe that that level of goodwill and that level of generosity is going to produce in my life what I want to produce. And that even if it doesn't produce financial, monetary value, it is going to produce the impact in their lives that will eventually come back in return. Or even if it doesn't, it is accomplishing what I set out to do, and that's impact other people's lives.
Exactly. And, I'm going to point out what you just mentioned there about authenticity and vulnerability. It is better to say, for example, if you want to choose your values, like vulnerability as your value than authenticity, because that actually means something. Because authenticity, it could mean a lot of like different things depending on your like
That's
personal take, right? Like, how do you see authenticity? So say like to me, like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Like, vulnerability is like, I get that straight away. As soon as you say vulnerability, I know what that looks like. If you see it in content, it's actually actionable. Like, say for example, you have a team, they need to be able to understand what those values are and what that looks like in practice. So vulnerability, okay, guys, make sure in our content we're talking about like the struggles that we've had behind the scenes. What are the challenges?
Yes.
Right?
1000% yes. And I think that's personal and brand, or in business brand. Like, I think those are the same across the board. Like, this is how your values are carried out. Point blank, period. There is no second guessing that. No question. This is how, or it is not a value.
Exactly. And okay, that moves us into like the personal branding side. The persona building side.
Okay.
PB, right? Like, it's close enough.
Close enough. We're good.
Close enough. Building those persona. I know we spoke about this before, and we have two very different like approaches in
Yes.
How we go about building the persona, what that
Yes.
looks like.
I'm a
So
big believer that
who's
brand personality. What? You say something?
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, do you want to go first, or do you want to
Sure,
like
sure.
explain your?
Listen, I'll tell you, I'm a big believer that a brand personality is best understood up front. And that if you don't understand that, you're going to hinder your ability to do what you do for a long time. Now, the way I look at it, my buddy and I, with the Empathy Marketing Company, developed a brand personality quiz. So this is like really, really deep rooted in who I am. But we came up with personas like adventurous, motivating, rebellious, luxurious, connected, calm, and all these different personalities. Because what we found is people that tend to be more calm, trying to live in a rebellious mode of communicating, are going to wear themselves out because they have to think so hard on what it's like to be rebellious. They have to try and figure out what it is to be that. Whereas if they just lived in the calm space, it would flow. Again, we're talking about flow, talking about water, talking about everything being frictionless. And so when you understand what your brand personality is and how you naturally communicate, naturally move, then you're going to frictionlessly be able to operate in business. And that's a personal brand and in big business. But from a personal brand standpoint, I think it is so important because it gets to be a slog, creating content every day, connecting with people every day, putting out different products, different services. And if you aren't in tune with how you naturally do things, you're going to be fighting against yourself. And that's where the personality matters to me so much.
And it leans off these values.
Yes.
We were just talking about values, and you can easily just like get that base idea from the values. So
Yeah.
I know that you approach it that way, and the way that I approach is I mean, like I'm very anti against like giving people a box. So
Yes.
it is the way that my approach goes is very pop culture orientated. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, so what pop culture icons? What, like, it doesn't matter what you're interested in. Like, I know I've spoken to people who are like, I don't watch Disney, or I don't watch like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you resonate with, what character you resonate with, or rather characters, right? Because you're building that balance. Because
Yeah.
same for like a human. Your business needs to have like a persona with different facets,
Yeah.
right? So you have that balance. Yeah, like you can have one if it's like, okay, we're everything this, but it's like choosing those characters and then saying, okay, if those characters were in a conversation with clients or an interaction with clients, what would that look like? What attributes from that specific character do you resonate with? Right. And it's like these things are slowly building up a certain kind of image.
Yep.
Right.
Hey,
And
listen, I don't
that's,
disagree with that. I don't disagree with
yeah,
that. It's solid. It's solid.
it's different approaches, right? Like
It is.
I think that's the difference, right? Like the fact that, hey, we don't have the exact same method is kind of a good thing. I mean, you know,
Oh, yeah. Everyone's not going to latch on to one method or another. I think it's super necessary.
I think a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, no, brand archetypes. Just choose a
Yeah.
brand archetype, and that's what like Google says. You go to like any search result, right? It'll say, okay, go and choose one of these brand archetypes, right? Whereas this is like it's more in tune with what you bring, your those values.
I
That
agree with that. And now I
reason.
do want to disclaim the way we built the quiz to find out the brand personality was actually asking off the wall questions to see how you process things rather than asking you to describe yourself.
I love
So
that.
we built it in a way. So instead of asking, hey, are you extroverted? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? what we'd ask is, if you were hosting a dinner party, what would it look like? Would it be a bunch of people around a table? Would it be everyone in their own different conversations? Would it be everybody listening to one person tell a story? And so when you start to ask questions like that, you can see how people think and how they process. And that's how we diagnose it. Rather than saying choose a brand archetype or which one resonates with you, I want to see how you think, and then I'll help you understand how you think.
Exactly.
So it's kind of in line with what you're doing. Kind of in line. There's a little bit more nuance, but
for everyone that's listening, you have the opportunity to bring together these two, which is it's probably is going to get the best result there, right?
Yep.
Consider, okay, how like, what are your thought processes like, and what you resonate with, and bringing those together, right? And that will come together with like a very clear image of your persona. And then the next step is like, okay, implementing, right?
Yep.
Daniel,
Put it all together.
Put
it all together.
So yeah.
Go ahead. You lead. Listen, I led the last. You lead this one. Go ahead.
Okay. So from the implementing side on like, business, etc., it's making sure, okay, going into the voice, going into the messaging, and then finally going into those graphics, right? And making sure that those they align. And even one which is missed out on a lot of brands is the audio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So say, for example, you've built out a classic high-end like a Rolex type brand, right? You go into your music, and it's a certain kind of music that aligns with the brand. I'm not saying like quiet, boring music, but you're having a look
great
of
point.
What really fits in with like when you're listening to it. Does this have like the same kind of feeling that you're trying to give is from that persona? So like the music side, the visual side, like everything needs to align. And that's how you build like the brands like Daniel's or mine. Like it's thinking about those different areas. And that's why when you see brand, it is something that you overlooks or branches out over the other departments, say, for example, because you want to make sure that, say, for example, HR or sales or marketing, etc., it's all using that same identity, that same vibe.
Yeah. No, I am like dead on there with you. I think no matter how we get there, you and I agree spot on with that, because I think it first carries in your voice. I think it has to be in your voice. The way you say things, the way you move, and also to the audio. Listen, I think the audio is also in how you say things audibly. So if I am authoritative, I'm going to say things with a lot of gusto. If I'm calm, I'm going to back it down a little bit, and I'm going to have a radio voice, and my radio DJ is going to talk to you real smooth and slow like. But if I'm rebellious, I'm probably going to be real punchy with something I'm saying. So like there's a lot of nuance even in the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you communicate alongside the music. And I would even add one in that scent smell. You smell leather. It feels high end. You smell food. It feels fun. So there are different things that you can even do from like a full sensory standpoint. But I think that the two most important things that if people get nothing right, the two they have to get right to carry out that personality is voice, and in the way they move, the way they interact with the people they seek to serve. It's audience and customer both. But if it's, a rebellious thing, being snarky, sarcastic, whatever, like you have to carry that through voice and interaction. If it's connected, I have to speak in a way that connects us, and I have to do things that make us feel connected. If it's authoritative, I have to make you feel like you're gaining wisdom and gaining something from my authority, and I have to use my voice to convey that.
Exactly. And it's also, hey, like showing there is some dynamic, right? Like we're
Yeah.
we're all humans, right? Like it's
Yep.
not AIs where like it's just gonna have one single voice. Because I know a lot of people they get worried about that, like, oh, do I need to always be authoritative, like
Yeah.
for example. It you don't always need to have that, but that needs to be like it needs to come back around to that. Like,
Yeah.
whatever is that baseline, that's that. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why, we spend so long in the persona. We spend so long in those values. We spend so long in those other areas is to make sure that, hey, look, we don't want you to be changing your mind like 6 months or 1 year down the line when you're like, oh, this doesn't really feel like me. It needs to going back to it needs to flow,
Yep. It needs
right?
to flow. Yep.
There needs to be that dynamic, and it needs to be like, okay, say for example, you've picked like 2 3 things that really represent or that like that fit your vibe, right?
Mhm.
Everybody needs to know that and adapt into the sales pitch, right? And stick to it, right? Like, you were
Yeah.
just talking about like having it wherever you are. Funny story. I've had people surprised at me like in the DMs when like my voice, be it like you know on the lives or in the content matches the DMs. They're like, oh, this is like too intense, and I'm like, why did you even connect with me?
You
That
should have known.
you should have known, because this is having that voice, those values. These are ways to narrow down on your audience, right? You're pushing
1000%.
away the people who you don't want to work with, right? That's the same
Yes.
reason. Like if somebody
Yes.
gets offended,
Wonderful.
not yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wonderful. Yeah, that
Okay.
voice that people will give me that feedback too. They like, oh, when you type, when you write, I can hear your voice
Mhm.
because it's all congruent. And I think there is a level. I think the one thing to take away from how to make all of this make sense is the word integrity. Integrity, the root of integrity is integer, which means whole, one whole. And so, integrity, this is the value standpoint, personality, the nostalgia. There has to be integrity and alignment. And if all of these are one whole and they are carried out in every space that you're in, then you found the magic of connecting at the core. Then you found how those values, the personality, the nostalgia, all of that kind of comes home to roost and create one solid brand.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not like, for everybody who's listening, we didn't just come into this live with 3 random topics. Like these are the baseline, right? It's
Yep.
it's like that heartbeat. And I know, Daniel, you were talking about this before we even got on our very first call about this live, and we were talking about like it's that heartbeat,
Yeah.
these baseline things. And we're now in the last 6 7 minutes of the live, guys. If you have any questions for us, be it nostalgia, be it values, be it persona, implementation, crazy 90s stories, shoot them in the DM, like in the comments, not the DMs because they're not there. But right now, and
But
we
shoot us
will
DMs
respond
afterwards. That's cool. We'll
afterwards.
chat it up. You'll hear
Afterwards,
our brand voice be authentic. I mean, that's cool too.
just in case you want to check, like you make sure that we have that
Just a
baseline
vibe check. Just a vibe check. That's cool.
check. It's like,
And in fact,
excuse
you
me,
DM us, we'll send you a video just so you can
facts,
understand. Just so you can understand.
facts.
That's actually how B and I connected. Is we started sending videos back and forth because we're like this typing things for the birds. We just gonna send videos, and so that's how we knew the vibes were right.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like same thing when you're doing collaborations, right? Make sure. So you built out these values. You've built out that persona. Make sure that whoever you're working with aligns with that. Yeah, they can have a
Yeah.
different, like they'll have a different voice, obviously, but it has to complement somehow, right? You can't have two very completely jarring vibes. People will get confused. There's a lot of brands that have accidentally and well-known brands at that, they've accidentally gotten together and you're like, what were you thinking? Like, for example, Formula One, one of the cars, I think it was like Ferrari or something. They switched engines to like a Honda engine or something, and yeah, no, they couldn't even qualify because the engine, yeah.
That's rough.
It's rough.
Especially because Ferrari is like the top in Formula One.
Exactly. Yeah, they went from Mercedes engines to Honda engines. I was like,
yikes.
Yeah,
that's rough.
So know what you stand for.
Absolutely.
Think about that, like, rather than whatever excitement might come, or even the followers, right? Like a lot of the cases, and I say this with like business owners that I speak to, it's like, okay, they have a lot of followers. Let's collaborate with them. Let's do a partnership with them. But okay, who are those followers? Are they in the same, are they in the same region? Are they the same age group? Like, do they have the same beliefs? Because otherwise you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy.
A little sidebar on that one. That is my qualm with going viral. That little tangent, that's my qualm with going viral. Is because everyone wants to go viral, and I'm like, the ones you're picking are, the ones you're picking up are not your people, most likely. They're the ones that don't vibe with you, that are just kind of there to see what's going on, to be entertained. Like, it's just not, it's just not it. I don't know. That's a little hot take to finish things off with, but that's my thoughts.
I used to agree with that until a conversation I had a couple weeks ago on the podcast.
Change my mind.
They changed my mind, and it was like, if you're posting very, very like niche content and something like that goes viral, and
I get with that.
Like, when they were saying like viral, and when I first went into it, like, I was thinking viral is like millions or whatever. Viral doesn't need to be millions. It depends on your industry. It depends on your niche. It could be like, tens of thousands kind of thing. That still counts because they're your people. They resonated. And that's why, like, say, for example, you're using nostalgia, right? If you use a very specific example, like the what's that ball thing called?
The koosh ball.
The koosh ball. Say, for example, you post that, and you will only get the people who get that, right?
True.
The people who don't, well, they're not your people. They're just gonna like write some hate comment. You're like, cool, that's fine. It's reducing it down. So yes, I used to think like that as well.
I hear you. Listen, with that caveat, I totally agree. I found that most of the stuff that I see go viral is top of funnel stuff, not the niche down specific stuff. When the niche down specific stuff goes, that's like the coup de grace, like gold standard for virality. Yeah, but I'm talking about like when you do something stupid and it becomes a whole thing, and it's like those people just follow along to watch you do whatever you did.
Or it's not even related. It's like okay, this thing trend that's happening out there. Trends will pass.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like to you like not use it in your content, sure, like, but don't make it a part of your brand unless you're like
values. Going back to the values. Going back to the personality. Make sure it aligns.
Everything needs to align, and I think that wraps it up for this Connecting at the Core. Thank you so much, Daniel. This was hellaciously fun.
Hey, so much fun. We're doing this again. We're doing it again.
Yeah, it's hells yeah. So guys, if you want us to come on and do this again, what would you like to see us talk about?
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe like Eminem, Slim Shady. I saw Jill's comments.
That is fantastic. I'm gonna go back and watch that. Like as soon as we get off, I'm going back to watch that.
Britney Spears is back? Is she back?
Listen, she's been in Vegas for a while. She's
She's
been
less
in Vegas
crazy?
for a while.
She's less crazy? I don't know. I haven't heard
No,
about
not
her.
less. Not less. Still, poor girl. Just she living life.
She's dancing with
She
knives.
doing her
I mean,
thing.
it's what we all do.
She doing her
What we
thing.
gotta do. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a badass as heck day, evening, whatever the time it is where you're
Whatever
at.
time it is. That's that.